I vowed to transfer schools with my childhood friend when he claimed he was being bullied, but the day before we were to finalize the transfer, he backed out. His friend teased him. Man, you faked being a punching bag just to get rid of Alice? That is cold. You two have been thick as thieves since forever. Are you really cool with her going to a new school alone? Shane Page brushed it off. It's just another high school across town. Not a big deal. I'm tired of her always being up my ass. This works out perfectly. I stood frozen outside the door for a long time. Finally, I turned and walked away. On the transfer form, I crossed out Oathport High and filled in the international academy my parents had been pushing for. Everyone seemed to forget that Shane and I were never equals. The moment I overheard the truth, my heart slammed against my ribs. In the past month, my childhood friend Shane Page had been feeding me stories of being jumped, framed, and humiliated at school. I threw myself into shielding him, but I couldn't block every blow. When it became unbearable, I suggested he transfer schools for a clean slate. That day, he was soaked from a bucket of ice water, his sharp cheekbones ghostly pale. He grabbed my hand, trembling. I can't face a new place alone. We've been inseparable since kindergarten, walking to and from school together for over a decade. Deep down, I've been nursing a quiet crush on him. So in a rush of loyalty, I promised, "Don't worry, Shane. I'll go wherever you go." But standing outside that private room, I realized it was all a cruel ruse to push me out of his life. Does he hate me that much? Inside, his friend kept talking. "Alice is crazy about you. What if she falls for someone else out there?" "Her?" Shane scoffed as if the idea was absurd. "She is so loyal. She'd take a beating for me and not even flinch. You think she ever stopped loving me?" His friend muttered. "I don't know, but she doesn't seem like someone you mess with." "No chance," Shane said lazily. "Our school is full of rich kids. But has she ever given any of them a second glance?" His tone dripped with disdain as he continued. "She is always up my ass. It's annoying." The room burst into laughter, sharp and mocking. I wanted to run, but my feet felt rooted to the floor, forcing me to endure the humiliation. One guy clicked his tongue. "First time I've seen someone push away a girl who is crazy about them. Respect, bro. But if you're sick of her, why not just tell her? She doesn't seem like the type to pester you." Shane frowned. "She is too intense. Being straight with her wouldn't be that easy." He paused, then dropped the real bombshell. "Besides, Esther gets all torn up whenever she sees Alice. She only feels okay when I'm there to hold her hand. I'm doing this for Esther's sake. Alice will just have to deal with it for a bit." It clicked like a puzzle snapping together. Shane started faking the bullying just a week after Esther Howell was transferred to our school. "You sly brat. A new girl shows up and you're already whipped," someone chuckled. "But Esther has got that fragile damsel in distress vibe. Guys eat that up. Unlike her, Alice is sharp and always has that icy glare that keeps everyone at arm's length. No matter how gorgeous she is, that is a tough sell." The others piled on, tearing me apart like sharks on a feeding frenzy. Shane didn't stop them or defend me. He even nodded along, agreeing with their jabs. My heart sank into a dark, throbbing abyss. For a fleeting moment, I wanted to knock down that door and demand answers. Why did he lie? Did he feel even a flicker of guilt watching me get hurt for him? Did our years of friendship mean nothing? But my mom's words echoed in my mind. "Don't fight pointless battles. People don't turn rotten overnight." In the end, I turned and walked away. The pain crept in slowly. I could have shrugged off a friend betrayal, but Shane had crossed that line, blurring the boundaries between friendship and something more that made the cut deeper. The day we agreed to transfer, he dragged me to a bar to celebrate our escape. The dim neon lights cast a hazy glow, and I couldn't tear my eyes off the guy I'd de-loved in secret for years. My heart raced wild and untamed. When he leaned in to kiss me, I didn't pull away. Years of bottled-up feelings surged, overwhelming me like a tidal wave. Unable to hold back, I asked Zane, "What are we now?" He dropped a tender kiss on my forehead. "What else, silly?" The bar exploded with cheer, mirroring the spark in my heart. But just 2 days later, his words shattered that fragile hope. I laughed through my tears, the sound bitter. It looked like that flirty, vague answer was just another trick to shove me aside and make way for Esther. The wind chimes in my bedroom clinked, the breeze drying my tears. Bit by bit, my broken heart began to mend. Shane was wrong about us from the very beginning. He was just the Page family's illegitimate son while I was the sole heiress to the Wiley empire. We were never meant to be tethered together. We belonged to different worlds. The transfer form in my hand was a wreck, the ink smudged by my tears. But it didn't matter. I would print a new one. The Wiley family always had a backup plan. I filled out a new form, pausing at the section for the new school. Then I called Pauline Wiley. "Mom, what is the name of the elite school you mentioned before?" "Yeah, I'm going alone." The wind chimes rang out, crisp and joyful, like they were cheering me on. I closed my eyes, and for the first time in years, Shane's face didn't haunt me. Instead, I saw a guy who looked a little like him, sharper and more striking. He flashed a cocky grin just like he did 2 years ago. "Mark my words, Alice. You'll ditch Shane for me." Back then, I thought he was just messing around. Now, I was done with Shane. I finished the form and heaved a deep sigh of relief. My heart was finally at peace. Then came a knock on the door, startling me. I lived alone in this house, and except for me, only one person knew the passcode. I opened the door, and there stood Shane, his voice as warm as ever. "You didn't show up to say goodbye to our friends?" I was worried. I kept my tone even. My stomach was acting up, so I'm staying in. As I moved to close the door, I caught a glimpse of someone behind him. Esther, small and fragile, flinched when our eyes met. Shane noticed her reaction and pulled her close, his arm a protective shield. "Alice, you're scaring her." There she went again, acting so timid, like I was some monster when I hadn't done anything. My expression hardened. "I told you I don't want strangers in my house." Shane's brow furrowed. "Esther's not a stranger. She came because she cares about you." Before I could respond, Esther's eyes welled up with tears. "Alice, I'm sorry. I know you've always looked down on me, but I swear I shower every day." She sniffled, all pitiful. "I won't mess up your house." Shane glared at me. "Her family is not rich, but she is not what you think. You're really letting me down here." Esther tugged at his sleeve, playing the bigger person. "It's okay, Shane. Don't fight with her over me." She forced a teary smile. She said, "You two go way back. How could I ever compare?" "Don't say that," Shane murmured, cupping her face gently. "You're one of a kind." Then he turned to me, his expression cold as ice. "Esther is upset. I'm taking her home. Reflect on your behavior, and don't forget to get your transfer form stamped." He was right about one thing. I did need to reflect, but on my blindness. I changed the passcode without hesitation. The knot in my chest loosened like I had finally exhaled a breath I'd been holding for years. The next morning, I took my new transfer form to school. As the secretary stamped the seal, a pang of emptiness hit me. I stared blankly at the ink until someone blocked my path. Shane, with his brows creased, said, "You changed the passcode on your house. I went back to check on you after dropping Esther off, but couldn't he get in?" I cut him off. "Yeah, I changed it." He swallowed, his displeasure slipping back into that familiar warm tone. "What is the new code, so I can swing by and look after you?" "No need," I said flatly. "I'm moving out after the transfer." He glanced at the folded form in my hand and face-bombed. "Oh, right. I forgot about that. Don't worry. I'll get mine stamped tomorrow." Walking and talking with him felt like a faint echo of our past. Ever since Esther entered the picture, these moments had all but vanished. I closed my eyes, letting nostalgia tug at me one last time. Then I tested him. "After all we've been through, you don't need to worry about me." He was silent for a moment. "Actually," Esther suddenly appeared behind him, clutching a stack of notebooks. Her voice was sugary and whiny. "Shane, you promised to help me study. Where did you run off to?" She shoved the notes at him, batting her lashes. "I saw your tutoring plan goes 2 months out, so I prepared some study materials." "You're not mad I snooped, right?" "Not at all," Shane responded with a forced, smiley glance. When I didn't react, his eyes dimmed a little. I knew what was going on. While he was pushing me away, he had been planning a future with Esther, one that didn't include me. I kept my expression neutral, but inside bitterness spread like a slow-burning whiskey. I dug my nails into my palm to stay grounded. "I'll leave you to it," Esther gasped, acting like she had just noticed me. Alice, are you upset because I'm studying with Shane? I don't have the money or connections like you do, so—" Her voice cracked and she started sobbing. Unimpressed, I said, "Get out of my way." Shane's guilt vanished at my blunt words. He grabbed my wrist, his voice hot with anger. "What's with that attitude?" He yanked me toward Esther and barked, apologized to her. The last shred of longing in my heart crumbled. My hand flew up, slapping him across the face. "You're the one who owes me an apology. Not to Esther, but to me." Back home, I sifted through the keepsakes Shane had given me over the years. The silver necklace, my 18th birthday gift, gleamed under the light. I'd worn it to school once, proud as anything, until I saw an identical one around Esther S.'s neck. She blushed, saying, "Shane promised that I would have everything you have." The limited edition teddy bear was just an empty box now. Shane had taken it, claiming he loved the perfume I sprayed on it. But the very next day, it was sitting on Esther's desk. Then there were the strappy heels from my coming-of-age party, the indigo-scented oil. Everything I thought was mine alone had been handed out like cheap trinkets. Worse, it wasn't even equal. A bitter smile tugged at my lips as I recalled Shane's endless doting on Esther, always taking her side. If that was how he wanted it, these relics could go straight to the dumpster. I booked a flight for the next day, ready to spend my last night in quiet reflection. At 2 a.m., my phone blared, jolting me from a hazy dream. I answered groggy, but the line was silent. Just as I was about to hang up, Shane's voice came through heavy and low. "Alice, I'm sorry." My brain snapped awake. Is he finally coming clean? But then he said, "Esther hurt herself. I can't leave her alone, so I am delaying the transfer." That spark of hope crashed and burned, leaving me feeling like a fool. I wanted to scream at him and demand answers to the pain I suffered from his fake bullying. Oblivious. He continued, "Just say sorry." I was stunned. "What?" He doubled down, his tone firm. "You need to apologize to Esther. She hurt herself because of you." I was speechless, but then it all made sense. With Esther around, every word I said was wrong. Shane's voice turned colder than a winter storm. "You're so disappointing. If you say sorry, we can pretend this never happened. In 2 months, I'll join you at the new school. Are you really going to throw away our years of friendship over this?" His words carried a sharp threat, but I felt no pain or reluctance. There was only the sound of me hanging up, blocked his number, and deleted it from my phone. I couldn't wait to board that plane. The world abroad felt vibrant like a fresh canvas. Someone grabbed my suitcase and I looked up into Stanley Ross' eyes. He grinned. "Alice, long time no see." I shook his hand, a genuine smile breaking through. "Good to see you, Stanley." My phone buzzed, cutting through the moment. It was one of Shane's friends. When I answered, Shane's voice came through laced with panic. "Alice, which class did you transfer to? Why is everyone saying they haven't seen you?" I glanced at Stanley, who raised an eyebrow at the interruption, then turned my attention back to the phone, letting the question hang in the air for a beat longer than necessary. "I'm at the International Academy," I said, my voice steady and detached, like I was reading off a grocery list. "The one my parents wanted me to attend." There was a pause on the other end, a sharp intake of breath that told me Shane hadn't expected this. "What? But we agreed on Oathport High." His voice climbed higher, teetering on the edge of desperation. "Why didn't you tell me?" I could almost see him pacing, running his hand through his hair the way he always did when things spun out of his control. "Because," I replied evenly, "you backed out the day before we were supposed to finalize everything. Remember? You said you weren't transferring anymore." The silence stretched like taffy, sticky and uncomfortable. Stanley shifted beside me, sensing the tension crackling through the phone line, but he didn't interrupt, just waited with the kind of patience that came from knowing when to give someone space. "Alice," Shane finally said, his tone shifting to that soft, coaxing warmth he always used when he wanted something. "I was going through a rough time. Esther needed me. You know how fragile she is. I didn't mean to leave you hanging." My jaw clenched so hard I could feel my teeth grinding. The audacity of him painting himself as some noble protector, while I had been nothing more than a pawn in his scheme. Stanley's eyes met mine, and in them I saw understanding, a quiet solidarity that made the knot in my chest loosen just a fraction. You told your friends you faked the bullying to get rid of me." I said each word dropping like a stone into still water. "I heard you, Shane. I heard everything you said in that private room." The line went dead silent, so quiet I could hear my own heartbeat thundering in my ears. Then came the scrambling, the frantic backpedaling ID expected. Alice, wait. That's not... I was just... They were joking around, and I got caught up in it. You know how guys talk. I didn't mean any of it. My laugh came out bitter and sharp, cutting through his excuses like a blade. Really? Because you sounded pretty convincing when you said I would take a beating for you and not even flinch. When you said I was always up your ass and it was annoying. When you said you were doing this for Esther's sake and I just have to deal with it. Stanley's hand landed gently on my shoulder, a grounding presence that reminded me I wasn't alone in this anymore, that I would already stepped into a new world where Shane's manipulations couldn't touch me. I was drunk, Shane protested, his voice rising with an edge of panic. You can't hold that against me. People say stupid things when they're drunk. You've known me since we were kids. How can you believe I would actually mean that? Because, I said, my voice dropping to something cold and final. You never once defended me when your friends tore me apart. You agreed with them. You nodded along and then you came to my house with Esther, acting like everything was normal, telling me to reflect on my behavior. Stanley squeezed my shoulder gently, a silent show of support, and I took a breath, studying myself. The thing is, Shane, I continued, I spent years making excuses for you. Every time you brushed me off or canceled plans or forgot something important, I told myself you were busy or stressed or dealing with family stuff. I convinced myself that our friendship, that what I felt for you, was worth the effort. But you know what? I'm done. I'm done being your safety net. I'm done being the girl who was so loyal she never stopped loving you. I'm done pretending we were ever equals. The words tumbled out like a dam breaking, releasing years of pent-up frustration and hurt. Shane was sputtering now, trying to interrupt, but I kept going. You used me, Shane. You used my feelings for you to manipulate me into doing whatever you wanted. And the worst part? I let you. I let you because I thought maybe, just maybe, if I was patient enough, if I was there for you through everything, you'd see me the way I saw you. But that kiss at the bar, that moment when you made me think we could be something more, that was just another trick, wasn't it? Another way to keep me on the hook while you figured out how to push me aside for Esther. Alice, please, Shane's voice cracked, and I could hear genuine distress now, threading through his panic. Don't do this. We can talk about it. I'll explain everything. Just tell me where you are, and I'll come get you. We can work this out. I'm already where I need to be, I said softly, and the truth of those words settled over me like a warm blanket. I'm at the International Academy. I'm starting fresh. And Shane, I'm not coming back. But Alice, he started, and I could picture him now, probably standing in the middle of our old school's hallway, students streaming past him while he clutched his phone like a lifeline. What about us? What about everything we've been through? What about us? I repeated. And this time, I did laugh. A real one tinged with disbelief. Shane, there is no us. There never really was. You made that clear when you chose Esther over me, when you lied about being bullied, when you let your friends mock me while you sat there and agreed. You made your choice. Now I'm making mine. Stanley motioned toward the car waiting at the curb, its engine humming softly, and I nodded, starting to walk. The International Academy campus sprawled before me in the distance, its elegant buildings and manicured grounds a far cry from the suffocating halls I had left behind. Shane's voice grew desperate, almost pleading. I'll transfer too. I'll come to the International Academy. Just give me a few weeks to sort things out with Esther and I'll be there. We can start over. No, I said firmly. You're not welcome in my new life, Shane. You had your chance. You had 1,000,000 chances, and you threw them away for a girl you barely know. Stanley opened the car door for me, and I slid into the back seat, the leather seats cool against my skin. I could still hear Shane talking, his words tumbling over each other in a frantic rush. Alice, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I was an idiot. I was scared. You're so strong and independent, and I thought if I pushed you away, you'd realize you didn't need me. But I need you. I've always needed you. Please. His confession should have made me feel something. Vindication or satisfaction or even residual pain. But all I felt was empty. hollowed out like a carved pumpkin. Too little, too late, I murmured. Goodbye, Shane. I ended the call and powered off my phone, cutting the cord completely. Stanley settled into the seat beside me, his expression carefully neutral. You okay? He asked, his voice low and kind. I turned to look at him properly for the first time since he grabbed my suitcase. Stanley Ross had been a constant fixture in my childhood, the Page family's legitimate heir and Shane's half-half brother, though the two had never been close. Where Shane was charming and manipulative, Stanley was straightforward and genuine. 2 years ago, at a family dinner I had attended with Shane, Stanley had cornered me in the garden and said those words I'd dismissed as a joke. Mark my words, Alice, you'll ditch Shane for me. At the time, Idaho thought he was just stirring up trouble, needling his illegitimate brother the way siblings do. Now seeing the steady concern in his eyes, I wondered if there had been more truth to it than I had realized. I'm getting there, I admitted, settling back into the seat as the car pulled away from the airport. Stanley smiled, a small, knowing curve of his lips. Good, because the International Academy doesn't to mess around. You're going to need all your focus. He pulled out a tablet and started swiping through screens. Let me catch you up on what you've missed. The Academy runs on a completely different system than regular high schools. There are 4 houses, kind of like college, and students compete throughout the year for points. Academics, athletics, arts, community service, it all counts. As he talked, walking me through the intricacies of house rankings and the merit-based scholarship programs, I felt the last traces of Shane's influence slipping away. This was real. This was happening. I was actually doing it. Stepping into a world where my worth wasn't measured by how much I could endure for someone else's sake. The campus, when we arrived, took my breath away. Sprawling lawns dotted with ancient oak trees, Gothic-style buildings with ivy crawling up their stone facades, students in crisp uniforms moving between classes with an air of purpose and confidence. It was a far cry from the claustrophobic halls of my old school, where every corner held a memory of Shane. Stanley led me through the registration process, introducing me to the house advisors and helping me navigate the maze of paperwork. By the time we reached my assigned dormitory, twilight had painted the sky in shades of amber and violet. Your room, Stanley announced, pushing open the door to reveal a surprisingly spacious single with tall windows overlooking the grounds. He set my suitcase down by the bed and turned to face me, his expression serious. Alice, I'm glad you're here. I mean that. I know it probably seems weird me showing up at the airport like that, but when I heard you were transferring, I wanted to make sure you had someone in your corner. I studied his face, looking for any hint of ulterior motives, but all I saw was sincerity. Why? I asked bluntly. Why do you care? Because, he said simply, you deserve better than what Shane gave you. I've watched him string you along for years, and it pissed me off every time. You're brilliant, Alice. You're strong and capable, and you have this fire in you that he tried to dim. I'm not saying this because I want anything from you. I'm saying it because it's true. His words landed differently than Shane's ever had. Solid and grounded instead of slippery and conditional. I found myself nodding slowly. Thank you, I said quietly, for being here, for being honest. He grinned, and there was that cocky edge I remembered from 2 years ago, tempered now with something more genuine. Now get some rest, tomorrow's orientation, and trust me, you'll need your energy. As the door closed behind him, I stood in the center of my new room, letting the reality of it all wash over me. I had done it. I had actually walked away. My phone, still powered off, sat in my bag like a dead weight. Part of me wanted to turn it on to see if Shane had called again if he'd left voicemails full of apologies and promises, but I knew that path led nowhere good. Instead, I unpacked methodically, hanging up clothes and arranging books, claiming this space as mine. When I finally crawled into bed, exhaustion pulled me under almost instantly, and for the first time in weeks, I slept without dreaming of Shane. The next morning dawned crisp and clear, sunlight streaming through my windows in golden bars. Orientation was a whirlwind of information. House assignments. I was placed in Hawthorne House, known for academic excellence and strategic thinking, campus tours, and introductions to what felt like hundreds of new faces. But unlike my old school, where I'd been known primarily as Shane's shadow, here I was just Alice Wiley, a transfer student with a clean slate. During lunch, I found myself sitting with a group of Hawthorne House students who welcomed me easily into their conversation. They talked about upcoming competitions, debated the merits of various professors, and made plans for a house study session that weekend. It was normal. It was easy. It was everything my friendship with Shane had stopped being. Stanley found me after lunch, falling into step beside me as I headed to my first class. "How is it going so far?" he asked. "Better than expected," I admitted. "The people here are, I don't know, different." He nodded knowingly. "That's because everyone here earned their spot. There is no coasting on family money or connections." "Well, I mean, there is some of that, but the culture is different. People respect hard work and talent." As we walked, my phone, which I had finally powered on that morning, buzzed insistently in my pocket. I ignored it. It buzzed again and again. Stanley raised an eyebrow. "You going to get that?" I shook my head. "I know who it is, and I don't want to deal with it right now." "Fair enough," he said, but his expression suggested he understood exactly who was blowing up my phone. "Just remember, you don't owe anyone explanations. You made your choice. Stand by it." His words echoed in my head as I sat through my first class: advanced literature and composition. The teacher, a sharp-eyed woman named Professor Chin, handed out the syllabus and immediately launched into a discussion about narrative perspective and unreliable narrators. "When you tell a story," she said, pacing in front of the whiteboard, "you're making choices about what to include, what to emphasize, what to leave out. Every narrator has an agenda, conscious or not. The question you have to ask is, whose version of events are you trusting and why?" I thought about Shane's version of our story, the one where I was the clingy friend who couldn't take a hint, where Esther was the fragile damsel who needed protecting, where he was caught in the middle trying to do right by everyone. Then I thought about my version, the one where I had been manipulated and used, where my feelings had been weaponized against me, where the person I had trusted most had betrayed me for someone he barely knew. Both versions contained truth, but only one told the whole story. After class, I finally checked my phone. 17 missed calls from Shane, 23 text messages. I scrolled through them, watching his tone shift from confusion to anger to desperation to bargaining. The last one sent just an hour ago made my stomach twist. "I'm coming to the International Academy. I don't care if you want me there or not. We need to talk face to face." I showed the message to Stanley when I met him for dinner in the Hawthorne House dining hall. He read it, his jaw tightening. "He can't just show up here," Stanley said flatly. "The academy has strict visitor policies. He would need approval from administration, and that takes time. Plus, he is not enrolled, so he can't just waltz onto campus." But his expression darkened. "He could wait outside the gates. Try to catch you coming or going." The thought made my skin crawl. The idea of Shane lurking around trying to corner me into a conversation I didn't want to have. "What should I do?" I asked, hating the tremor of uncertainty in my voice. Stanley leaned back in his chair, considering, "First, document everything, every message, every call. If he escalates, you'll need proof for a restraining order. Second, don't engage. Every time you respond, you're telling him there is still an opening, still a chance. Cut him off completely. And third," he met my eyes steadily, "trust that you made the right choice because you did." Over the next few days, I threw myself into academy life with a focus that surprised even me. I joined the debate team, signed up for advanced physics, and volunteered for a community outreach program Hawthorne House was organizing. Every achievement, every new connection felt like another brick in the wall between my old life and my new one. Shane's messages continued, but I didn't read them anymore. Just let them pile up unread. Then, exactly 1 week after I'd arrived at the academy, he showed up. I was walking back to my dorm after debate practice, discussing argumentation strategies with a teammate named Claire, when I saw him standing by the main gates. He looked haggard, his usually perfect hair disheveled, dark circles under his eyes like he hadn't slept in days. When he spotted me, his face lit up with desperate relief. "Alice," he called out, starting toward the gate. The security guard stepped in front of him, one hand raised. "Sir, you need to step back. This is private property." "I'm here to see someone," Shane argued, gesturing toward me. "Alice, please just give me 5 minutes." Claire glanced at me, her expression questioning. "You know him?" "My ex-best friend. I said quietly, the one I was telling you about. Her eyes widened in understanding, and she moved closer to me, a show of solidarity. Want me to stay? I nodded, grateful. Shane was still arguing with the security guard, his voice rising. You don't understand. We've known each other since we were kids. She is making a huge mistake. I need to talk to her. The guard remained unmoved. Ma'am, he said, looking at me, do you want to speak with this individual? Every eye in the vicinity turned to me, curious students slowing their pace to watch the drama unfold. For a moment, I was tempted to walk over there and let Shane say his piece to give him the closure he clearly needed, but then I remembered his words in that private room. The casual cruelty with which he dismissed me, the way he had used my feelings as a joke for his friend's entertainment. No, I said clearly. I don't. Shane's face crumbled. Alice, please, he begged, his hands gripping the gate bars. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I was an idiot. I was scared. You're everything to me, and I threw it away for someone who doesn't even compare. Just let me explain. I walked closer, close enough to see the genuine anguish in his eyes. But I didn't cross the threshold between us. Shane, I said, my voice carrying in the quiet evening air, you had weeks to tell me the truth. You had a million opportunities to be honest about your feelings, about Esther, about what you really wanted. Instead, you lied. You manipulated me. You made me believe you were being bullied, so I agreed to leave my entire life behind. And then you backed out and tried to make it seem like I was the problem? But I loved you, he said, his voice breaking. I still love you. I shook my head slowly. No, you loved having someone who would do anything for you. You loved the security of knowing I would always be there, always waiting, always loyal. But that's not love, Shane. That's convenience. And the moment someone more appealing came along, you traded me in without a second thought. He was crying now, tears streaming down his face. And part of me, the part that had loved him for so long, ached at the sight. But I had cried too, alone in my room, my heart shattered by his betrayal. I had earned my peace, and I wasn't going to give it up for his guilt. Go home, Shane, I said gently but firmly. Go back to Esther. Build the life you wanted with her. But leave me out of it. I'm done being your backup plan. As I turned to walk away, he called out one last time, his voice raw and desperate. I messed up. I know I messed up. But Alice, you were right about one thing. We're not equals. We never were. You're so much better than me, and I couldn't handle it. I was terrified that if we stayed at the same school, you'd realize you'd outgrown me. So I tried to push you away first. I tried to control it, but I was wrong. I was so wrong. I paused, looking back at him one final time. You're right, I said softly. We're not equals, but not because I'm better than you. Because I learned to value myself. And you're still trying to manipulate your way through life. Maybe someday you'll figure out the difference. The walk back to my dorm felt surreal, like I was floating above my own body. Claire stayed beside me, chattering about something inconsequential to fill the silence, and I was grateful for her presence, for the normalcy of it. When we reached Hawthorne House, Stanley was waiting on the steps, his expression dark. I heard what happened, he said without preamble. Campus security called me. I'm on the approved guardian list for you. I nodded, too emotionally exhausted to question how or when that had happened. He tried to play the victim card. It almost worked. For a second there, I wanted to believe him almost is the same as did. Stanley pointed out, you stood your ground. That takes guts. We sat on the steps together watching the sunset over the campus painting everything in shades of orange and pink. The beauty of it felt almost painful, a reminder of how much of the world I'd been missing while I was stuck in Shane's orbit. Can I ask you something? I said after a while. Stanley made a sound of consent. 2 years ago at that family dinner when you said I would ditch Shane for you. Did you mean it? He was quiet for a long moment. Yeah, he finally said. I meant it. Not because I wanted to steal you away or prove something to Shane, but because I could see what he was doing to you, how he was dimming your light, and I thought, if you ever woke up and realized what you deserved, maybe you'd give someone like me a chance, someone who sees you for who you really are. His honesty was disarming, so different from Shane's calculated words. I don't know if I'm ready for that, I admitted, for anything like that. I need time to figure out who I am without him. He nodded, understanding. I'm not asking for anything, Alice. I'm just saying when you're ready. If you're ever ready, I'm here, not as Shane's brother or as some rebound just as me. The semester unfolded like a story I hadn't known I was writing. I thrived at the International Academy, my grades soaring, my confidence growing with every challenge I conquered. Hawthorne House won the first inter-house competition of the year, a complex academic decathlon, and my contributions to the team earned me recognition from the professors and respect from my peers. Shane tried a few more times to contact me, but the messages grew less frequent as weeks turned into months. I heard through the grapevine that invisible network of gossip that connects all schools that he and Esther had broken up. Apparently, without me as a convenient target for her insecurities, the cracks in their relationship had shown through quickly. He had tried to go back to our old school, but the lies H told about being bullied had come to light, and he had been ostracized by the same friends who had laughed along with his jokes about me. There was a certain poetic justice in it, though I felt no satisfaction. Only a distant sadness for the friendship we might have had if he'd been brave enough to be honest. Stanley became a constant in my new life, not in a smothering way, but as a steady presence. We studied together, grabbed coffee between classes, debated philosophy and politics, and the meaning of loyalty late into the night. He never pushed for more than I was willing to give, never tried to fill the void Shane had left with his own ambitions. He just existed alongside me, patient and kind, until slowly, without me quite realizing when it happened, I stopped thinking of Shane when I looked at him. The winter formal came around in December, Hawthorne House buzzing with excitement about dresses and dates and the elaborate decorations the planning committee had promised. I'd been planning to skip it, content to spend the evening studying for midterms, but Claire and my other friends staged what they called an intervention. "You're going," Claire declared, holding up 3 different dresses she de-borrowed from upperclassmen. "You've worked your ass off all semester. You deserve one night of fun. And," she added with a knowing smile, "I heard Stanley hasn't he asked anyone yet." I felt my cheeks heat. "We're just friends for now," she said sagely, "but you should still go. Show yourself and everyone else that you're not defined by what some guy did to you." She was right, of course, so I borrowed the midnight blue dress she thrust at me, let her do my hair and makeup, and tried to ignore the nervous flutter in my stomach as I descended the stairs to the common room where Stanley was waiting. His expression when he saw me made the effort worthwhile, a mix of awe and something deeper, something that made my heart skip. "You look," he started, then shook his head at a loss for words. "You look like the version of you that was always there, just waiting to shine." At the dance, surrounded by twinkling lights and the sound of laughter and music, I felt something shift inside me. The ghost of Shane that had haunted me for so long finally loosened its grip, fading into the background until it was just another memory, painful but no longer defining. When Stanley asked me to dance, I said yes without hesitation. As we swayed to the music, his hand warm against the small of my back, he leaned down and murmured, "I'm proud of you, for everything you've accomplished, for choosing yourself." I pulled back enough to meet his eyes. "Couldn't he have done it without you?" He smiled, that genuine, open smile that was so unlike Shane's calculated charm. "Yeah, you could have, but I'm glad I got to be here for it anyway." The song ended, transitioning into something faster, and our friends pulled us into their circle, everyone laughing and dancing without care. At some point in the chaos, my phone buzzed in my clutch. Against my better judgment, I checked it. One new message from an unknown number. I opened it, and my breath caught. It was from Shane. "Alice, I know you blocked my old number. I don't expect you to respond to this. I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry. Really, truly sorry. Not because I want you back, or because I think we can fix this, but because you deserved better than what I gave you. And I'm finally starting to understand that. I heard you're thriving at the academy. I'm happy for you. I mean that. You were always meant for bigger things than our small-town school. Bigger things than me. I hope you find everything you're looking for, and I hope someday you can forgive me. Not for my sake, but for yours." Because you deserve to let go of the hurt I caused you. I'm working on myself. Seeing a therapist, trying to figure out why I sabotaged good things. It's probably too late for us, but maybe I can be better for the next person. Take care of yourself, Alice. You were always the best part of my life, even when I was too stupid to realize it. I stared at the message for a long moment, feeling the weight of closure settling over me. It wasn't the dramatic apology I might have imagined months ago. Wasn't a grand gesture or a desperate plea. It was just honest, painfully so. And in its honesty, it finally released me from the last threads of resentment I'd been carrying. I didn't respond. There was nothing left to say. Instead, I deleted the message, tucked my phone away, and returned to the dance floor where Stanley was waiting. His hand extended, his smile warm and welcoming. As I took his hand and let him spin me into the crowd of dancing students, I realized something profound. I had spent so long thinking I needed Shane to be complete, that our friendship or the possibility of something more was the foundation of my worth. But standing here surrounded by new friends in a place I had earned through my own merit, with a future stretching before me full of possibility, I understood the truth. I had never needed Shane. I had needed to believe in myself. And now finally, I did. The music swelled around us and Stanley pulled me closer, his eyes searching mine. "You okay?" he asked softly, somehow sensing the shift in my mood. I nodded, a genuine smile spreading across my face. "Yeah," I said, meaning it completely. "I'm better than okay. I'm free." And for the first time in as long as I could remember, I meant every word. The rest of the night blurred into a montage of joy. The kind of unfiltered happiness I hadn't allowed myself to feel in years. When Stanley walked me back to my dorm in the early hours of the morning, the campus quiet and peaceful under a blanket of stars. He stopped at my door and took my hand. "Alice," he said carefully, "I know you said you needed time, and I respect that. I'll wait as long as you need, but I want you to know when you're ready. I'm here, not as a replacement for Shane, or as someone trying to fix you. Just as someone who sees you, really sees you, and thinks you're pretty incredible." I looked up at him, at this person who has been patient, kind, and honest when I had needed it most, who had never asked me to be anything other than myself. "I think," I said slowly, "that maybe I'm more ready than I thought." The kiss, when it came, was nothing like the desperate, drunken kiss Shane had given me in that bar. It was soft and sweet and full of promise, a beginning rather than an end. When we pulled apart, I was smiling, and so was he. "Welcome to your new life, Alice," he said with a grin. "I have a feeling it's going to be extraordinary." As I closed the door behind me and leaned against it, my heart full and light, I knew he was right. This was my new life, one I had chosen for myself, built on my own terms. And it was going to be extraordinary. Not because of who I was with or where I was going, but because for the first time in my life, I knew exactly who I was. And that was enough. More than enough. It was everything.